Dad! In the cavernous hall of the county courthouse, my daughter stumbled toward me, clutching a worn-out unicorn plushie. The blue ribbon tied in her hair was a gift from my ex-wife's so-called soulmate. I instinctively rolled my wheelchair back a half-step, avoiding her embrace. The rubber wheels screeched on the polished linoleum, a sound that echoed the shriek in my memory. 3 years ago in a hospital room, this same child had wished aloud, "I hope Daddy dies so Uncle Leo can be my new daddy." Now, with tears clinging to her lashes, she was begging me to come home. My ex-wife, Sophia, hurried after her, a sheaf of divorce papers clutched in her hand. A pearl hairpin glinted, catching the light and making me squint. Trailing her was Julian Vance, dressed in the custom Armani suit I'd bought for him, wearing the Swiss watch I'd paid for. Even the cedarwood cologne he wore was identical to the bottle in my study. "Ethan, can we talk?" Sophia's voice had that familiar, practiced softness. I held up the freshly printed decree. "Talk about what? Your impending bigamy charge with Julian here? Or the fact you sold our brownstone to pay for his treatments?" A few people nearby gasped. My daughter, Lily, looked up at me, and an orange candy dropped from her small hand, clattering on the floor. It was the same kind she'd secretly pressed in my palm while I was in the hospital, just before turning to the patient in the next bed and whispering, "When Daddy's gone, there'll be no one to steal Mommy from me." The antiseptic smell of the courthouse, mixed with the stuffy summer air, stung my nostrils. May sunlight streamed through the building's glass facade, casting a fractured pattern on the floor. My grip tightened on the divorce decree. 3 years. The last time I was here, I had been a different man. "Dad!" The clear, childish voice was like a firecracker in the quiet hall. I looked up to see a little girl in pigtails running toward me, her pink dress a blur of motion. She was hugging a faded unicorn plushie, the one I'd secretly placed on her pillow the night before I left. "Lily, don't run off." A familiar voice followed. Sophia, in a simple cream dress, the pearl hairpin I'd given her for our anniversary nestled in her hair. Behind her stood a thin man in a perfectly pressed white shirt, frowning in my direction. As Lily reached me, I rolled back. Her little hands grabbed the leg of my pants. She looked up, tears on her eyelashes. "Dad, Stardust missed you so much." I stared at the blue ribbon in her hair, a gift from Julian. A bitter taste filled my mouth, but I forced a smile. "Where's Uncle Leo? I thought he loved playing house with you." Sophia's face went pale, her fingers twisting the fabric of her dress. "Ethan, Mr. Cole, here is your final decree." An official from the clerk's office handed me the document, interrupting her. I took it, my knuckles white from the pressure. 3 years ago, at this very counter, I'd sign away everything, watching as Sophia helped Julian walk away without a backward glance. Julian stepped forward, the faint scent of cedarwood drifting from him, the same scent as the bottle on Sophia's vanity. He reached for Lily, but she dodged him. "I want to talk to Daddy." "Lily, be good." "Don't bother him," Julian said, his voice laced with impatience as he pinched her wrist. I shot forward, my hand clamping down on his wrist with enough force to make his eyes widen. "Her skin is delicate, Julian." "Ethan, you're still so petty," Sophia complained. "Julian just got out of the hospital. He's not stable." "So what?" I released him with a cold laugh. 3 years ago, he had a depressive episode and slit his wrists, and you left our daughter at the hospital to run to him. 2 years ago, he wanted to go abroad for treatment, so you sold our brownstone. What is it now? The eyes of everyone in the hall were on us. Sophia's face flushed crimson. "We came here to finalize the divorce." The words were a bombshell. Lily looked up, shocked. "Mommy, you promised you'd make it work with Uncle." "Uncle Julian." I raised an eyebrow at Julian. He looked away, the tips of his ears turning red. Sophia bit her lip, then suddenly grabbed my hand. "Ethan, the truth is, Ms. Miller, this gentleman's time is extremely valuable." A calm, professional voice came from behind me. I turned to see my assistant, David Chun, striding over, a red-bordered invitation peeking from his suit pocket. "Mr. Henderson from the Redevelopment Board is already waiting for you in the conference room." Sophia's hand flinched. "Redevelopment? Your family's old brownstone." "Congratulations, Mr. Cole," David interjected with a smile. "I hear they're putting up a commercial complex on that block. The buyout must be in the 8 figures, right?" Julian's face went ashen. Sophia's nails dug into my palm. "Ethan, why didn't you tell me?" "When you threw my father's portrait on the floor 3 years ago," I interrupted her softly, pulling my hand away. "Did it ever occur to you to tell me that Julian has a severe pollen allergy and my father's study was always filled with lilies?" Sophia's face drained of all color. Lily looked up at me, her eyes welling up again. A number was called from a distant counter. Julian suddenly spoke. Sophia, it's our turn. Wait. Lily suddenly turned and pulled a piece of candy from her pocket. Dad, this is the orange kind you used to love. The crinkle of the wrapper was loud in the silence. I looked at the candy in her palm, a familiar sweetness rising in my throat. It was the kind she'd secretly given me in the hospital. I'd been delirious with fever, but I'd heard her whisper to the next bed, when Daddy's gone, Uncle Leo can finally be my real daddy. Lily, I leaned down, gently prying open her clenched fist. Some things, once you drop them, you can't pick them back up. The candy rolled onto the floor. Julian's shoe came down and crushed it into dust. Sophia grabbed my wrist again, her voice cracking. Ethan, Julian, and we haven't been together for a long time. I only stayed because I felt sorry for him. He was so. Sophia. I stared at the emerald ring on her ring finger. Julian's mother's heirloom. You always use that word, sorry. 7 years ago, when your car crashed and shattered my leg, you said, I'm so sorry, you just look so much like my childhood friend. 3 years ago, when you brought Julian into our home, you said, he is no one. I feel so sorry for him. Now you're saying you haven't been together? How many people have to pay the price for your savior complex? Gasps rippled through the hall. Sophia stumbled back, her face a mask of horror. You knew all along. I know a lot more than you think. I patted the armrest of my wheelchair. For instance, the driver who saved you wasn't a hero. He swerved to avoid a stray cat that darted into the road. And Julian's depression treatment overseas? That was an engagement trip with Samaris. And for another thing, I leaned in close, lowering my voice to a whisper. You think I signed everything over to you because I loved you? No, I just wanted to see how spectacularly you could ruin your own life without me. Sophia recoiled as if struck, bumping into a nearby table and sending a stack of forms scattering across the floor. Lily burst into tears. Julian, his face a thundercloud, grabbed her arm. What are you crying for? Let's go. Get your hands off my daughter. I snarled. The wheelchair shot forward, pressing against his wrist and leaving a red mark. He yelped and let go. Lily immediately scrambled into my lap, sobbing. Ethan, don't push it. Julian rolled up his sleeve, revealing a jagged scar on his wrist. You want to see what I can do to you? Do to me? What? I held up my phone, the screen displaying a video of him getting intimate with a well-known influencer. Or maybe we could talk about the $30 million you embezzled from the Miller Corporation? Sophia's head snapped up. What did you say? Julian's eyes darted around frantically, his throat working but no words coming out. The sound of distant sirens grew closer. David stepped forward. Mr. Henderson says the redevelopment contract can be signed ahead of schedule. Wait. Sophia lunged, grabbing the handles of my wheelchair. Ethan, I was wrong. Can we start over? Please? Lily needs her father, and I can't live without you. Lily looked up, her tear-streaked face filled with hope. I looked at that face, so much like Sophia's, and remembered a stormy night 7 years ago. She was sitting on a curb, drunk and crying, her dress soaked, raindrops clinging to her eyelashes like a lost kitten. Sophia. I gently pried her fingers off. You always assume everyone will just wait for you to come back. But some cracks can't be fixed with a simple, I'm sorry. The wheels of my chair rolled over the scattered forms. I could hear Sophia's sobs and Lily's cries behind me. The sun, piercing through the glass, cast a long shadow in front of me. The same light I had chased for 7 years, which now only felt blinding. David held the glass door open for me. The hot May wind hit my face. In the distance, the redevelopment board building gleamed. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Miller Corporation under investigation for financial fraud. Stock plummets 60%. A small smile touched my lips. I turned to David. Send that partnership proposal to Julian Vance. Tell him, for old time's sake, I'm willing to buy his Miller Corp shares for $3 million. Mr. Cole, are you sure? David raised an eyebrow. Perfectly, I said, feeling for the candy Lily had stuffed in my pocket. The wrapper was hopelessly wrinkled. I was just thinking that some people need to fall from a great height to truly understand what pain feels like. My phone buzzed again. A text from my old family housekeeper. Sir, we have the results on the medical records you requested for Julian Vance's mother. I looked up at the churning clouds, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. The driver who died all those years ago had saved more than just a reckless girl. And the truths some people were desperate to bury were far uglier, far more rotten than they could ever imagine. Let's go, I murmured, patting Lily's back. She'd fallen asleep, tear tracks still visible on her cheeks. How about Daddy takes you to get some orange-flavored ice cream? The wheels rolled over the sun-drenched pavement, the courthouse shrinking behind us until it was just a dark speck. My phone screen lit up with a text from Sophia. "Ethan, please give me a chance to explain." About the brownstone. I deleted it without a second thought and dialed the number saved as Mr. Henderson. The call connected over the roar of a bulldozer. "Mr. Cole, we found the iron box under the foundation of the old house. The documents inside. Secure them for now," I said, watching the city blur past the car window. I thought of my father on his deathbed, his hand gripping mine, his eyes filled with a guilt I never understood. "Once the buyout funds are transferred, clear my schedule. I need to go back home." Lily mumbled in her sleep, her fingers clutching the front of my shirt. I gently pulled out the crumpled candy wrapper. The sweet orange scent mixed with a flood of memories. It was the surprise I'd hidden inside her second birthday cake. By the time the SUV pulled up to the old brownstone, the sky had turned a deep indigo. Lily was sleeping soundly on my shoulder, her eyelashes still damp. David held an umbrella as he pushed my wheelchair up the path. The ivy on the brick walls rustled in the wind and rain. For a moment, I saw my father again, kneeling by the wall, tending to his lilies, the sun weaving golden threads through his graying hair. "Sir, everything is in the study, in the safe, Mr. Henderson said. He wore a faded but clean groundskeeper's uniform, his hands clutching a yellowed manila envelope, his fingertips trembling slightly. "Your father, before he passed, he said not to open it unless it was absolutely necessary." "I know." I cut him off, my gaze falling on a chipped tile in the entryway, cracked by Sophia's high heel the first time she'd visited. She had knelt down, apologizing profusely, her fingers brushing my knee as she promised she'd come visit often. The study smelled of old wood and forgotten books. When the safe clicked open, a musty odor hit me. The iron box was smaller than I'd imagined, its rusty latch bound with a red silk cord, the kind my mother used to love. "Should I give you some privacy?" David asked from the doorway. His suit was still impeccable, save for a tiny, barely visible snag on his left cuff, from when he'd picked up the candy wrapper for me this morning. "No need." I untied the cord. As the lid creaked open, a yellowed newspaper clipping fell out. The headline was stark. "Miller Corp investigated for illegal medical device trafficking. CEO Marcus Vance falls to his death." Marcus Vance, Julian's father. David's breath hitched. "Mr. Cole, this is from 1998, I said, pinching the edge of the paper, the old ink staining my fingers. The darkest chapter in the Miller family history. Inside the box were several documents. On top was a birth certificate. The mother's name was listed as Eleanor Hayes, Sophia's aunt, the former CFO of Miller Corp who had died in Switzerland 10 years ago. The baby's name was blotted out with ink, but I could just make out the corner of a letter that looked like a V. "Sir, your father, on his deathbed." "Mr. Henderson began, his voice raspy. He said the car crashed that year." "Mr. Henderson." I cut him off sharply, glancing at Lily in my lap. She stirred, her hand tightening on my shirt button. A clap of thunder rattled the windows, and the rain began to pour. David moved to close the window. The invitation in his pocket slipped out again, its gold foil font catching the lamplight. "Victoria Price and Carter Sterling cordially invite you to celebrate their wedding." The name felt familiar. I stared at the embossed floral pattern on the invitation and suddenly remembered a photograph on Sophia's dresser. A 16-year-old Sophia with her arm around a girl with a ponytail, and standing behind them, a young Julian Vance in a lab coat. Back then, he was still just Julian, not Leo. "Mr. Cole, the redevelopment contract needs your signature," David said, holding out a file. His finger paused over the words special deed. "Mr. Henderson mentioned the deed for the underground parking garage. Leave it for now." I closed the iron box, my heart beating a little too fast. My father's last words had been a repeated, desperate plea about under the garage floor, but I'd searched everywhere and found nothing but this box hidden inside a load-bearing wall. My phone vibrated. A text from Sophia. "Ethan, is Lily with you?" She forgot her asthma inhaler. Asthma? I looked down at Lily's slightly flushed ears and remembered her collapsing at daycare last week. The teacher said it was a reaction to pollen. Sophia had been with Julian at an art gallery. When she answered the phone, she'd been laughing. "Oh, kids are so dramatic." "David," I pushed the box into his hands. "Take Lily to Mr. Henderson's guest room and ask the kitchen to prepare some lily bulb soup." "But sir, your allergy to lilies." "Just do it," I interrupted, turning the wheelchair toward the bookshelf. "I need some time alone." The rain hammered against the glass. On the top shelf were my father's photo albums. I opened the first one. A faded picture from 1995. A young driver holding a 3-year-old Sophia, with a man in a lab coat standing beside them, Julian's father, Marcus Vance. On the back, in my father's handwriting, Chairman Miller and his daughter visiting Dr. Vance at the hospital. A hospital? I try to recall the story Sophia had told me. When she was 7, she'd snuck into her father's car and started it. The driver had swerved to save her, hitting a guardrail. But in this photo, she was in a princess dress, a Hello Kitty Band-Aid on her knee. This was taken at a hospital. I heard the low murmur of David and Mr. Henderson downstairs. I opened the next album, and a medical report fell out. Marcus Vance, terminal lung cancer, treatment funded by a long-term grant from the Miller Corporation. I slammed the book shut. The birth certificate, Marcus Vance's death, Sophia's aunt's secrets. The pieces were snapping together in my mind, forming a horrifying picture. Julian wasn't the driver's son. He was Sophia's cousin, a blood relation hidden away by the Miller Corporation to cover up a scandal. Sir, Mr. Henderson pushed the door open, holding a bowl of soup. You look pale. Mr. Henderson. I looked at his graying temples. Who was the man who really saved Sophia in that crash? The old man's hand trembled violently. The bowl clattered against the armrest of my wheelchair, hot soup splashing onto my hand. He dropped to his knees, his forehead touching the floor. It was me. I lied to you. Miss Sophia was playing with the steering wheel in the garage. Dr. Vance ran in to grab the keys. When the car hit the pillar, he used his own body to shield her. So that explained Julian's chronic back injury. That's why Sophia always said he had scars. That's why my father's last words were an apology to my dear friend Marcus. I closed my eyes, my heart pounding like a drum. All this time, I had been the biggest fool in this charade. Sophia had married me simply to hide Julian's identity, using my ordinary background as a cover for her family's grand deception. Get up, I said, pulling the orange candy from my pocket. The wrapper was almost transparent from the heat of my hand. Don't tell anyone about this. Not yet. As Mr. Henderson left, wiping his eyes, David came in. He was holding a document. Mr. Cole, Julian Vance replied. He's willing to sell his shares for $3 million, but he has one condition. He wants to meet in person, right? I tore open the wrapper. The orange flavor exploded on my tongue, sweet and agonizingly bitter. Arrange it for tomorrow, 3 p.m., in the old garage. But sir, that place is... David frowned. It's fine. I turned the wheelchair to face the storm outside. Some truths need to be soaked in the rain before they become clear. Just then, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered to the sound of broken sobs. Ethan, Julian, he says he's going to kill me. It was Sophia. In the background, I heard the crash of porcelain, Julian's enraged shouts mixed with Lily's screams. Tell me, you knew all along, didn't you? Mommy. Lily's cry was a spike of pain in my temple. Daddy, help me. I spun the wheelchair around so fast it knocked over a bookshelf. David lunged to steady me as papers scattered everywhere. One sheet drifted under the desk lamp. It was a voluntary transfer of shares form for the Miller Corporation. The signature was Sophia's mother's. Send me your location, I said, my voice tight, my nails digging into my palm. If one hair on Lily's head is harmed, I will make sure Julian Vance spends the rest of his life eating orange candy from a wheelchair. A heavy thud echoed through the phone, followed by Julian's cold, chilling laugh. Ethan Cole, you think finding that box means you've won? Let me tell you, I have Eleanor Hayes' corporate seal. All I need is... The line went dead. David was already pushing a transport chair toward me. The wedding invitation fell from his pocket, and I saw the bride's photo. She was wearing the same pearl hairpin as Sophia. It was Victoria Price, Sophia's best friend and Julian's ex-girlfriend. Mr. Cole, David picked up the invitation, his eyes calm. Do you want me to call in the security team? No. I ran my hand over the carved bamboo pattern on the wheelchair's armrest. My father had carved it himself. Tell me, David, do you think Marcus Vance, just before he fell from that building, also felt like he was holding a winning hand? David didn't answer. He just held the door of the SUV open. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour. As we passed a 24-hour convenience store, I suddenly told him to stop. Buy a bag of orange candies. Sir, David hesitated. She likes them, I said, staring at the warm, yellow light of the store. I remembered the way Lily's ears had turned red when she'd stuffed the candy into my pocket. Some things are worth picking back up. My phone buzzed. An anonymous text message. You'll find what you're looking for in Julian's pill bottle. Attached was a picture of a blue prescription bottle. The label read, sertraline, a common antidepressant. But I remembered 3 years ago in hospital, I'd watched the nurse give Julian an injection from a vial clearly labeled lidocaine, a local anesthetic. The rain intensified. The garage of the old brownstone loomed ahead, its metal door streaked with rust, illuminated by flashes of lightning. David parked the car and then spoke quietly. "Sir, about Miss Price." "Chill." I held up a hand, peering through the rain at a sliver of light coming from under the garage door. I could hear Julian's voice, mixed with sobs. "Sophia, you think I'm finished just because your mother signed her shares over to Ethan? All you have to do is sign this agreement." "I won't sign it." Sophia's voice was choked with tears. "You promised you'd be good to Lily." "Lily?" Julian laughed coldly. "That little brat you had with Ethan Cole? If I hadn't needed to keep him in the dark, I would have gotten rid of her long ago." A sharp metallic clang, followed by Lily's piercing scream. I threw my weight against the wheelchair, ramming it into the metal door with all my strength. The door groaned open. I saw Julian holding a small paring knife, its tip pressed against Lily's neck. Sophia was crumpled on the floor, blood seeping from a cut on her wrist. "Ethan," Julian's glasses were crooked on his nose, his eyes shot with red. "Give me the iron box, and I'll let them go." Lily was trembling, but her eyes were fixed on my pocket. "Daddy, candy." I pulled out a piece of orange candy. The wrapper crackled faintly in the storm. Julian's eyes flickered toward the sound, the knife moving a fraction of an inch. "Now." I hurled the candy at his face. At the same instant, David lunged, grabbing the hand that held the knife. In the chaos, I rolled to Lily's side, shielding her with my body. She was soaked to the bone, but she shoved something into my hand. "Daddy, Uncle Julian's pills." It was the blue bottle. I twisted it open. A small, folded piece of paper fell out. It was Sophia's handwriting. "Julian, stick to the plan. Once Ethan's shares are transferred." "Dad, look out!" Lily screamed. I turned just as Julian, having broken free, lunged at me with the jagged edge of a broken bottle. In a split second, David threw himself in front of me, letting out a grunt of pain. The glass shard sank into his shoulder, and blood bloomed across his white shirt. Julian froze. Sophia seized the opportunity, tackling his legs. "Run! The police are coming! Run!" I wiped the rain from Lily's face and hit record on my phone. "Listen closely, Julian. The illegal asset transfers at Miller Corp. The truth about your father's death. Your DNA results with Eleanor Hayes. I have proof of everything." His pupils constricted, but then he started to laugh. "You think Sophia ever really loved you? She was just using you. That night you saved her, I was the one who had her dropped on that street corner. I knew a pathetic white knight, like you would take the bait." "Stop it!" Sophia shrieked, scrambling to cover his mouth. "Don't say any more. Please." The wail of sirens grew louder. Lily suddenly pointed at Julian's pants. "Dad, he has Mommy's necklace." It was the wedding gift I'd given Sophia, a platinum chain with a heart-shaped diamond. Now the chain was broken, hooked onto his belt loop like a dying snake. "So, you've been wearing it all this time," I said softly. "Were you afraid I'd find out you pawned it to pay off Julian's gambling debts?" The color drained from Sophia's face. Julian shoved her away and made a break for the back door of the garage, but he froze mid-stride. "Mr." Henderson stood there, holding his phone, the camera aimed directly at him, streaming a live feed. "Mr. Vance, Mr." Henderson's voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. "I was in the passenger seat the day your father saved Miss Sophia. The birthmark on the back of your neck. It's identical to Dr. Vance's." Julian staggered back into a set of shelves. An old fluorescent light fixture above him flickered and exploded, showering him with glass. A shard cut a deep gash below his left eye. He clutched his face, blood seeping between his fingers and spotting the concrete floor. Lily broke away from me and ran to Sophia, pulling a candy from her pocket. "Mommy, have a candy." Sophia took it, her hands shaking. As she tore the wrapper, tears streamed down her face. It was strawberry-flavored, her favorite. The kind I secretly bought every week and hid on the top shelf of the pantry because she complained they were too sweet. "Ethan," she looked up, her eyes swimming with regret. "Get Lily in the car." I cut her off. I turned to David, who was pressing a handkerchief to his shoulder. "You too. Get that wound seen to. The police can handle this." "Mr. Cole." David suddenly grabbed my wrist, his voice a low whisper. "The wedding on that invitation. It's a setup." I raised an eyebrow. He let go and pulled a photograph from his pocket. "Victoria Price's new husband is the illegitimate son of the CEO of Sterling Industries." "And the Sterlings?" "Carter Sterling," I said, recognizing the name on the back of the photo. Sophia once told me the Sterling heir had saved her when they were kids. "Go on." "Carter Sterling has been aggressively buying up Miller Corp stock," David said, glancing at Julian being led away in handcuffs. "And the shares Julian controlled originally belonged to Eleanor Hayes." I finished for him. I looked toward the horizon, where the sky was beginning to lighten. A grim smile formed on my lips. David, what kind of face do you think Carter Sterling will make when he finds out the evidence that could ruin him is hidden in the garage of an old brownstone in Boston? He paused, then a slow smile spread across his face. Probably the same face Julian has right now, like he wants to burn the whole world down. The rain stopped. Lily was pressed against the car window, watching a rainbow form, clutching a half-eaten piece of orange candy. Sophia sat in the back, her wrist bandaged. She spoke suddenly. Ethan, after they demolished the brownstone, can we? No. I cut her off, opening a new text from Mr. Henderson. Documents from the box have been sent to the lawyers. A hidden room was discovered beneath the garage floor, possibly containing. Containing what? Sophia leaned forward, a flicker of panic in her eyes. I locked my phone and looked out at the city skyline, coming into focus. Some secrets were better left buried, and some people were destined to suffocate in the webs they wove themselves. Daddy, Lily pointed ahead. There's an ice cream shop. All right, let's go get some. I turned her toward the shop. Orange flavor? Yes. And strawberry. She swung her little legs, then remembered something and pulled an object from her pocket, pressing into my hand. For you. It was in Uncle Julian's pocket. It's shiny. It was an emerald ring. A lily was carved into the face, a tiny diamond chip glittering at its center. It was identical to the one on Sophia's finger. Mr. Cole. David's voice came from behind me. The redevelopment board just called. The deed for the hidden room under the garage. Wait. I closed my hand around the ring, feeling the sharp edges of the carving. I had designed that pattern myself for Sophia's birthday. First, I wanted to find out everything you can about the connection between Carter Sterling and Eleanor Hayes. And find out what really happened the day Marcus Vance died. My phone vibrated again. A new email from an anonymous sender. The attachment was a security video clip, a winter night in 2018. Julian is helping a drunken Sophia into a hotel. As they walk down the hall, the camera catches the dark, predatory smile on his face. I deleted the email. Sweetheart, I said to Lily, from now on, if you want candy, you just have to ask Daddy, okay? She nodded enthusiastically, and the blue ribbon in her hair finally came loose and fell to the floor. I picked it up and tossed it into a trash can on the sidewalk. Some things just needed to be thrown away. As the neon sign of the ice cream shop flickered on, I heard Sophia whisper, Ethan, the truth is... Don't. I watched Lily skip toward the counter and was suddenly thrown back to that stormy night 7 years ago. She had run toward me just like that, her eyes reflecting the streetlights like stars that had fallen into the ocean. But now, the stars were shattered and the ocean was dry. Late that night, the study in the old brownstone was as silent as a tomb. I stared at the corporate structure chart on my monitor. Next to the 32% block of Miller Corporation's publicly traded stock was a single name, Sterling Holdings. David's shoulder was bandaged. He was frowning at a security feed. Julian Vance sent a text to Carter Sterling right before he was arrested. What did it say? I twisted the emerald ring on my finger, the carved lily digging into my palm. It was deleted, he said, pulling up call logs. But cell tower data shows they met last week at the Pinnacle Club. The Pinnacle Club, Carter Sterling's private playground. I pulled out Julian's pill bottle. There was a thin scratch on the blue plastic, almost like a deliberate mark. As my finger traced the letters of sertraline, I remembered Sophia once saying Julian was allergic to most modern pharmaceuticals and only took herbal medicine. David, I handed him the pill bottle. Run a lab analysis on this batch number and find out what's actually inside. As he took it, his cuff slid back, revealing a tattoo on his wrist, a lily, identical to the one Sophia had on her collarbone. My eyes narrowed. He quickly pulled his sleeve down. I'll get right on it, sir. After he left, I opened the safe again and re-examined the documents from the iron box. The birth certificate was dated July 15th, 1995, the same month Eleanor Hayes supposedly went to Switzerland for a health retreat. And on Marcus Vance's death certificate, the cause was listed as suicide due to depression, but the autopsy addendum noted a massive overdose of sleeping pills in his system. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Ethan, Lily said she wants you to make her your special cheesy scrambled eggs. It was accompanied by a picture of our daughter at the kitchen table, a smudge of ketchup on her cheek, giving a V for victory sign to the camera. I stared at the photo, remembering her third birthday, when Sophia had thrown out the breakfast I'd made, saying, "It's too greasy for a child. I'll have her picked up tomorrow morning." I typed, then deleted it. "Have a nanny make it. You stay out of the kitchen." The moment I hit send, Mr. Henderson appeared at the door with a glass of warm milk. "Sir, you need to rest." "Mr. Henderson." I looked at his tired face. Do you know Carter Sterling? The old man's hand jerked, spilling a few drops of milk. The Sterling family. They did business with your father a long time ago. Just business? I pointed to the silver watch on his wrist, a limited edition Vacheron Constantine. Carter Sterling's father owned one exactly like it. Mr. Henderson looked up, his expression unreadable. Sir, some things... I know, I cut him off. Once the buyout money comes through, I'll arrange for your retirement in Switzerland. He opened his mouth, then closed it with a sigh and turned off the desk lamp. Your father would be proud of what you're doing with this place. An owl hooted outside. I held the emerald ring up to the moonlight and saw it for the first time. Tiny initials engraved on the inside band. S.Z. It was a common Pinyin abbreviation for Sophia's name, but I had commissioned this ring from a jeweler in Italy. My phone rang, an unknown number. I answered to a low, husky female voice. Ethan Cole, do you want to read Eleanor Hayes's diary? Who is this? My body went rigid. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. The Pinnacle Club, Suite 502. The woman let out a low chuckle. And come alone. Otherwise, I can't guarantee the supply of your daughter's asthma medication. Before she hung up, I heard the faint notes of a piano playing Fur Elise in the background. The first song Lily learned to play at her daycare. At 3 a.m., I was in the brownstone's garage. The beam of my flashlight played over the walls until it found a hairline crack in the corner. I pushed and a section of the wall swung inward on hidden hinges, releasing a cloud of ancient dust. It was a small, cramped hidden room. Taped to the wall was a yellowed newspaper clipping. Miller Corporation in fraudulent acquisition of mental health facility. Director Marcus Vance dies in suspicious fall. A safe was set into the far wall. On the dial was a sticky note in my father's handwriting. Ethan's birthday. The lock clicked open. I held my breath. Inside was a single envelope, sealed with the old Miller Corp wax seal, addressed to Ethan Cole, to be opened by his hand only. The paper was brittle. My father's strong penmanship filled the page. Ethan, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. There are things I must confess. I was not the driver who saved Sophia. It was Marcus Vance. He swerved to save that little girl and died before the ambulance arrived, making me promise to look after his family. Eleanor Hayes was your birth mother. The Millers were forcing her into an arranged marriage, and she ran away. She was already pregnant when she came to my clinic. We planned to marry after the child was born, but then the Miller Corp building caught fire. She died trying to save her research data. The birth certificate in the box is real. Julian Vance is actually. The ink was smudged here, the final words illegible. The Millers will never know that the fire didn't just destroy their financial records. It destroyed the evidence they wanted gone, most of all, proof of every crime committed under Project Starlight. Ethan, promise me, stop digging. You can't handle this darkness. My hand, clutching the letter, was shaking uncontrollably. Project Starlight. The words were a knife twisting in my gut. My father's dying whispers of "I'm sorry" weren't about my leg. They were about the lie he'd kept for my entire life. I wasn't Ethan Cole. I was Eleanor Hayes' son, the illegitimate heir to the Miller Corporation fortune. A dripping sound echoed from the back of the hidden room. Drip, 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 like a heartbeat. I pulled out my phone and texted David. Investigate 1998 Miller Corp arson case. Focus on missing lab reports. As I hit send, a flicker of silver caught my eye from the shadows. I spun around to see a hooded figure disappear through the opening. On the floor lay a syringe. The label read, lidocaine, Julian's preferred painkiller. I picked it up just as I heard Mr. Henderson calling from upstairs. Sir, there's a little girl here to see you. Lily? I shot up, the wheelchair slamming against the safe. I raced out to see her standing in the foyer with Mr. Henderson, clutching an orange candy, her hair damp with rain. Daddy. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. Mommy said you'd make me scrambled eggs shaped like stars. Lily, what are you doing here? I took the towel Mr. Henderson offered and started drying her hair. Where's your mother? Mommy's sleeping. She pulled an invitation from her pocket. A delivery man gave this to you. It has lots of pretty ladies on it. The gold embossed invitation was for Victoria Price and Carter Sterling's wedding. The date was 3 days from now, the venue the Pinnacle Club. I opened it, and my blood ran cold. The embossed lily pattern on the cover perfectly matched the scratch mark on Julian's pill bottle. Aren't you going to have your candy, Daddy? Lily looked up at me, the orange wrapper glowing in the hall light. I am. I peeled it open and popped it in my mouth. It tasted like ash. Do you want a bite, Lily? She shook her head. Mommy says Daddy's candy is bitter and I can't eat it. Bitter? I froze, remembering Sophia once calling the candy I bought cheap stuff for poor people, even though Lily always seemed to love it. Daddy's candy isn't bitter, I said, tapping her nose. Want to try? She hesitated, then took the piece I offered. The moment it touched her tongue, her eyes widened. It's sweet. Mommy lied. Just then, a car horn blared outside. Sophia got out of town car, wearing a black trench coat. Her face fell when she saw us. Lily, who told you could come here? I sent a driver for her, I said calmly. From now on, Lily will spend Saturday mornings with me. No, Sophia blurted out, then saw the candy wrapper in Lily's hand and softened her tone. Ethan, I know you're still angry with me, but Lily needs her mother. She also needs her father, I interrupted, rolling toward the door. Sophia, it's time we settled our accounts. She looked up, fear flashing in her eyes. What do you mean? The $30 million Julian embezzled, I said, holding up my phone. The fraudulent financial reports from Miller Corp, your aunt's medical records. Stop it. She lunged, clamping a hand over my mouth, her nails digging into my chin. Ethan, I'm begging you, just let it go. Lily, terrified, burst into tears. Sophia froze, snatching her hand back. She fumbled in her purse and pulled out a folder. This is everything I own. It's all yours. Just please, don't make this public. I glanced at the documents. On the transfer of her 15% stake in Miller Corp, her signature was smeared as if by tears. Thinking of my father's letter of Project Starlight, I grabbed her hand. Sophia, you knew, didn't you? About the fire. I don't know anything, she screamed, shoving me away and stumbling back against the doorframe. I don't know. Just leave me alone, please. Her phone rang. The caller ID read Carter Sterling. Her face went white. She answered, listened for a moment, and then her eyes shot to me. What did you say? How could he? I leaned closer. I could hear Carter's icy voice. Sophia, you need to get your ex-husband on a leash before he gets himself killed. And bring Lily to the club tomorrow. I want to meet her. The second the call ended, tears began to fall. Lily ran to hug her. Mommy, who's Uncle Carter? He's... Sophia looked at me, then gritted her teeth. He's an old friend of Mommy's. He likes you very much, sweetie. I watched her trembling fingers and remembered the photograph. A 7-year-old Sophia hanging on Carter Sterling's neck, laughing, with Marcus Vance's lab coat in the background. Fine, I said with a smile. I'll bring Lily to meet him myself. Sophia's head snapped up, her eyes wide with terror. You can't go. Carter is... Is what? I moved closer. Was he there, the night the fire killed my mother? Her pupils dilated. She staggered backward, her hip hitting a console table. My father's portrait fell to the floor, the glass shattering in a spiderweb of cracks. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, terrified. But Sophia didn't seem to feel a thing. She just whispered, you know. I don't know enough, I said, picking up the frame and wiping the dust off with my sleeve. But soon, everything will come to light, built on the ashes of the Miller Corporation. A low rumble of thunder shook the house as the heavens opened up. Lily scrambled into my lap. Daddy, I'm scared. Don't be. I stroked her hair, inhaling the faint scent of strawberry shampoo. Daddy's here to protect you. Sophia let out a sudden, desperate laugh. Protect? Ethan, you can't even protect yourself. You have no idea who Carter Sterling is. You can't possibly think that I'm Eleanor Hayes' son? Is that enough? The words hit her like a physical blow. She went completely white. Lily looked from me to her, utterly confused. Mr. Henderson was standing at the top of the stairs, a tray slipping from his hands and crashing to the floor. Over the sound of shattering porcelain, he whispered, Sir, your father knew. I know, I said, turning back to Sophia. Now it's your turn. What is Project Starlight? She stared at me, then began to shake violently, as if reliving a nightmare. Just then, a text from David popped up on my phone, Mr. Cole, the analysis of Julian's pill bottle is back. It's not sertraline, it's... The screen went black. The power was out. In the sudden darkness, Sophia's voice was a choked cry. Ethan, run. Carter's. A screech of tires tore through the storm, followed by the deafening crash of shattering glass and splintering wood. Lily screamed. I spun around to see a black SUV that had smashed through the front wall, its headlights bearing down on us. Look out, Mr. Henderson shoved me hard. The wheelchair skidded on the wet floor and slammed into a pillar. The SUV's high beams illuminated Sophia's terrified face. In a flash, she threw herself forward, shielding Lily with her own body. The rain poured down on the ruins of the brownstone. A firefighter was using the jaws of life to pry open the mangled front door. I knelt beside Sophia, my hands pressed against the wound at her back, her blood warm and sticky between my fingers, blooming like a dark flower on her cream-colored dress. Lily was clinging to her, sobbing hysterically, her small face a mess of rain and tears. "Ethan." Sophia's voice was a whisper. Her fingers found my wrist, trembling. "The hidden room. The safe." "I know." I leaned close, the metallic scent of blood filling my senses. "Just hold on. The ambulance is almost here." She shook her head, coughing up blood. "Carter, he wants Lily. Because of her birthday." Lily's birthday? July 15th. The same date as on Julian's birth certificate. My head snapped up. I saw Mr. Henderson behind the police tape, clutching that Vacheron Constantine watch, its face glinting coldly in the rain. That day, Sophia was seized by a violent coughing fit, splattering my shirt with blood. "Your mother." It wasn't an accident. The sirens grew louder. Her eyes suddenly cleared, a last flash of life, and she pointed a shaking finger past me. "Mr. Henderson, he has." Her hand fell limp. Lily let out a wail and collapsed on her mother's still form. I gently pulled my daughter away and closed Sophia's eyes. Her emerald ring was askew, the carved lily now filled with blood. "Mr. Cole." David was suddenly beside me, his own bandage bleeding through his shirt. The impact brought down the wall to the hidden room. There's a safe inside. I turned and saw Mr. Henderson being led away by 2 police officers. He looked back and shouted, "Sir, the key is in the watch." As the ambulance lights painted the scene in strobing red and white, I found a micro key hidden inside the watch's clasp. David held an umbrella over me as we navigated the debris. The safe in the hidden room was half buried in rubble. As the key turned in the lock, the sound was drowned out by the frantic pounding of my own heart. Inside was a single manila envelope, sealed with a 1998 Miller Corp wax seal. A yellowed medical chart fell out. "Eleanor Hayes, severe preeclampsia. Recommend termination of pregnancy." Pregnancy? I gripped the chart, the veins standing out on the back of my hand. David shone his flashlight inside the envelope. A partnership agreement between Miller Corp and Sterling Pharmaceuticals. Marcus Vance's full autopsy report, and a single videotape, labeled Project Starlight. 1998. 7:15. "Mr. Cole." David's voice was shaking. "The security footage shows the SUV belongs to a transport company owned by Sterling Industries." I clutched the videotape, my father's words echoing in my mind. A police officer was shouting from outside the wreckage. David put a hand on my shoulder. "We need to get out of here. Carter Sterling's wedding is still on for tomorrow." I interrupted, closing my fist around Sophia's emerald ring. "Get this evidence to our legal team. Tell them to be ready to release it tomorrow, during the ceremony." He stared at me for a second, then took off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders. "I'll go with you to the hospital to check on Lily." The lights of the pediatric ICU were a sterile, unforgiving white. Lily was curled up on the bed, an oxygen mask over her small face. The nurse said she'd gone into shock, triggering a severe asthma attack. I sat beside her, stroking her damp hair, replaying Sophia's last words. Why did Carter care about Lily's birthday? My phone vibrated. A text from my lawyer. "Mr. Cole, based on the documents you provided, Julian Vance is not the driver's son. He is the illegitimate son of Eleanor Hayes and Marcus Vance, and the sole heir to the Miller Corporation." Illegitimate son, the blotted-out name on the birth certificate. He wasn't Julian Vance. He was Julian Miller, Sophia's cousin, the secret bloodline. That's why she'd done everything for him. "Sir." David was at the door, holding a lab report. The analysis on the pills in Julian's bottle came back. It's a beta agonist, typically used for asthma. Long-term use can create dependency. Asthma medication. I looked at Lily, at the mask on her face. I remembered Sophia saying Julian needed his medication when he was unstable. I remembered that every time Lily had an attack, it was after playing with a new toy from Julian, a teddy bear, a hair ribbon, even a unicorn plushie. "Send the unicorn to the lab for testing," I said, standing up, the wheelchair crunching over glass on the floor. "And give me Carter Sterling's itinerary for the last 3 months. I want to know exactly where he was on July 15th. David hesitated, then just nodded. I pulled out an orange candy. As I peeled off the wrapper, I noticed tiny letters printed on the inside. C.S. Carter Sterling. The crystal chandeliers of the Pinnacle Club glittered like a galaxy. I sat in my wheelchair, dressed in a black suit, and watched Victoria Price walk down the aisle in a cloud of white lace, the light from her pearl hairpin stabbing at my eyes. Lily held my hand tightly. She was wearing a pink tulle dress, a new blue ribbon, a gift from David, in her hair. "Daddy," she whispered, "that man keeps looking at me." Carter Sterling stood at the altar in a silver gray suit. His gaze did, indeed, keep flicking in our direction. I felt the videotape in my pocket, the images from last night burned into my mind. July 15th, 1998. Eleanor Hayes collapsing in the lab, a test tube shattering. Carter Sterling standing in the doorway, a cold smile on his face. And now, the bride and groom will exchange rings, the officiant announced. As Carter slipped the ring on Victoria's finger, I saw it, a pale, faded scar on the inside of his left ring finger. It was the same shape as the birthmark on the back of Lily's neck. Wait! I rolled my wheelchair forward, my voice echoing through the grand ballroom. Mr. Sterling, I have a wedding gift for you. The room erupted in whispers. Victoria's face went pale. Carter raised an eyebrow. Mr. Cole, this is hardly the time. Oh, I think you'll like this one. I nodded to David. He hit a button, and the large projector screen behind the altar flickered to life. The grainy footage from the videotape filled the screen. A young Eleanor Hayes in a lab coat is writing in a notebook. Marcus Vance enters, holding a file. Eleanor, we can't wait any longer. Marcus says, his voice urgent. Carter and his father want to rush this drug to market. We don't know the long-term side effects. No. Eleanor looks up, her face fierce. The last clinical trial was a disaster. 23 patients developed pulmonary edema. Have you forgotten? The camera shakes violently. Carter Sterling bursts in, a Zippo lighter in his hand. Eleanor, don't be a fool. This drug goes to market, or the Miller Corporation goes bankrupt. You're insane. Marcus lunges for the lighter. As they struggle, the flame touches a beaker of alcohol on a workbench. The fire ignites instantly. Eleanor grabs a stack of papers and tries to run, but a burning ceiling beam crashes down. Gasps filled the ballroom. Carter's face was a deathly white. Victoria staggered back, her dress sweeping across a candelabra. The lace caught fire. That was just the appetizer, I said, holding up the partnership agreement. Sterling Pharmaceuticals conspired with Miller Corp to manufacture and distribute an unapproved asthma medication, which resulted in severe complications in 327 patients, including. I looked down at Lily, who was staring, wide-eyed, at the screen, including my daughter, Lily Cole. Carter's pupils constricted. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You're lying. What proof do you have? Proof. I held up a blank USB drive, but he didn't know that. Julian's doctored prescriptions. Sophia's wire transfers. The sworn testimony of Mr. Henderson, who, by the way, gave the police a full confession this morning. At the mention of Mr. Henderson, Carter's face contorted. I knew what he was thinking. Mr. Henderson had been the Sterling family driver. After the fire, he had taken the evidence he had and gone to my father, seeking atonement. Carter, I allowed a small, cold smile. Did you ever wonder why Sophia agreed to marry me? Because she knew only a boring, ordinary man like me would never question the secret she was hiding. For example, the identity of Lily's real father. The accusation hit the room like a thunderclap. Victoria spun around to face Carter. Lily looked up at me, her brow furrowed. Daddy, what are you talking about? Nothing, sweetheart. I patted her head, my eyes locked on Carter. Need me to jog your memory? 7 years ago, a stormy night, you left a drunk Sophia on a street corner for me to find. A deliberate setup, because you knew I'd had a crush on her for years. You counted on her marrying me to provide a cover for Lily's real parentage. After all, the Sterling heir couldn't have an illegitimate child, could he? Carter's fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white, but with every camera in the room pointed at him, he was trapped. Victoria ripped the veil from her hair and threw it at him. You married me to cover up your scandal. Her dress was now fully ablaze. Guests screamed and scrambled away as security rushed the stage. In the confusion, I rolled closer to Carter, my voice a low growl. Here's something else you don't know. Julian wasn't just Sophia's cousin. His father, Marcus, was your mother's brother. That makes Julian your cousin, Carter, and the sole legal heir to the Miller Corporation. His head snapped up, his eyes filled with dawning horror. I saw the moment he finally understood why Julian carried the rare genetic marker for asthma that ran in the Sterling family, why Eleanor Hayes had died protecting that iron box. Cole, he roared. You think taking me down makes you a hero? Don't forget, you were also a product of Project Starlight. Shoo, I cut him off, holding up the emerald ring. Some secrets are best left buried. Like how, when you pushed Marcus Vance off that balcony, his last words weren't "help me." They were, "Carter, may you rot in hell." The fight went out of him. Just then, police officers swarmed in the ballroom. David presented a warrant. Carter Sterling, you're under arrest for murder, arson, and a manufacture and sale of illegal pharmaceuticals. In the chaos, Lily pointed at Carter's chest. Daddy, the mark on his neck looks just like mine. The room fell silent. Carter instinctively covered his neck, stumbling backward. I looked at the pale birthmark on Lily's neck and finally understood Sophia's dying words. She had known all along that Carter was Lily's father. That's why she protected her so fiercely, even while Julian was blackmailing her. "Take him away," an officer commanded. As they dragged him past me, he shot me a venomous look. "You think Eleanor Hayes was your mother? She was just your foster mother, Ethan. Your real mother." "Enough." I cut him off, a cold finality in my voice. Some truths were never meant to see the light of day. 3 months later, the Miller Corporation was dissolved and restructured. Sterling Pharmaceuticals, crippled by the scandal, was on the verge of bankruptcy. I sat in my new office overlooking the city, turning Sophia's emerald ring over and over in my hand. I would never know what she had been about to say. "Daddy." Lily skipped in, holding up a crayon drawing. "It's a family picture. Me and Mommy and you." The drawing showed 3 smiling stick figures holding hands under a sky full of colorful balloons. A lump formed in my throat. "It's beautiful, sweetie. Will you take Stardust to visit Mommy?" she asked, her eyes full of hope. "Of course we will," I said softly, stroking her hair. Sophia's ashes were interred in a quiet cemetery in the suburbs, next to a small plaque for Julian. He had taken his own life in prison, but not before sending me a letter, confessing that he had deliberately manipulated Sophia into pushing me away so he could claim the company for himself. My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Mr. Cole, the funds from a brownstone buyout have been deposited. Shall I proceed with the donation to the Children's Asthma Foundation?" "Yes," I typed back, looking out at the clear blue sky. My father had spent his life savings on that property. Maybe, somewhere deep down, he knew that one day, something good could grow from that poison ground. Lily pointed at my hand. "Daddy, your candy." I looked down. An orange candy, its wrapper catching the afternoon sun. I unwrapped it and placed it in my mouth. For the first time, it tasted sweet. It wasn't the candy that had been bitter. It was my life. "Want a bite?" I offered it to Lily. She shook her head. "You have it, Daddy. I have a new candy." She pulled a strawberry candy from her pocket. The wrapper had a cartoon character on it, named Uncle Leo. It was a brand Julian had invested in before his death. It was now part of a nonprofit initiative. The doorbell chimed. My assistant brought in a package. When I opened it, I froze. It was Sophia's diary. The last entry read, "Ethan, I'm so sorry. The truth is, Lily is..." The final words were lost, blurred by what could only have been tears. I closed the book. I could hear Lily talking to David in the hallway. "Uncle David, the flower on your wrist looks just like Mommy's." "Does it?" David's voice was warm. "It's a lily. It means purity." I pulled out my father's old pocket watch. Engraved on the inside of the cover were the initials, E. Ush, Eleanor Hayes. Perhaps some secrets were meant to be buried with time, but some love could never be erased. "Daddy, let's go fly a kite." Lily tugged on my sleeve, her eyes sparkling. "Okay." I pushed back from the desk, standing tall, and took the unicorn kite she held out to me. The sun broke through the clouds, casting our shadows on the floor ahead of us. One large, one small, standing side by side.